Hello, Cowboy fans, Cowboy Nation. Coach Marv coming on live again with you to get a little tidbit of talking about the scheduling. I know I'm a little late about the scheduling, but um, I got some very interesting things that I want to say about the scheduling that we got going on this year. I think this the schedule came out. And I think I posted on Twitter, on X. I don't want to say Twitter. When I posted on X uh, about the scheduling, and one of my posters that I put on X was that if we're not that our schedule has some very tough, physical, um, mentally tough teams on our schedule this year. Um, and when I judge a schedule, Um, a lot of people judge. I think it's kind of crazy to judge a schedule from the strength of schedule based off what happened on last year because every team is different the following year. Yes, you're gonna have some things that's gonna be kind of the same. We understand some of the talent, on some of these teams is still there, but every team, even the Cowboy team, I mean, it's no difference the championship teams. Every team is different every year. It's a different circumstance. Nothing is just the same. A lot of things you have in place, but it takes a lot to build a team every year, and everything is different. So you're gonna have some different challenges. You're gonna have some different. Sometimes you're gonna have some things that's gonna become easier. There's gonna be some things that you used to do last year that's gonna become harder. So every year is different. So I don't like to judge a schedule based off of what uh, the records was last year in playoff teams. And sometimes you refer to that, but when I look at a schedule, I look at playing style and I look at DNA of coaches. Now, why I say playing style? Well, basically, your playing style is going to come from the DNA of your head coaches, and the DNA of the teams that we're playing this year, the head coaches of the teams we're playing, is pretty stout. I think if you start in our division, I think our division is still going to be one of the tough. It's going to be one of the toughest divisions in football. The NFC East has gotten back to the gauntlet like it used to be, or it has been in NFL history. And I know I repeated this on live screens before. There is no better uh, division in football than the NFC East. No division comes close with how many Super Bowls we have. Matter of fact, we had more Super Bowls as a division before the Eagles started winning Super Bowls. So we got 5, 4, and 3, and 2. You got some divisions in football don't even have nowhere close. You don't have some divisions in football don't even have what the Cowboys have themselves in the whole division. So the NFC East has always historically been a dominant a conference, dominant defense, been quite dominant in the running game in the history of that division. So that division is very tough physical tradition, and usually, and I test somebody to go and check this out. We hadn't had a return champion in that division in a long time. The one anybody wanted back to back, won the division back to back. But if you look back at that division, every year the team that has the best defense wins. Now, you can talk about all the offense you want. Every year, the team that has the best defense in that division, yes, they have to carry some offense, but usually the team with the okay offense may not have the best offense, but it has a close enough offense. But the ones that have the best defense in that division wins, and that's historically about that division. That's why that division usually, when whoever comes out of that division with the best defense, usually go on and play for NFC championships or Super Bowls. And that's why that division has won so many Super Bowls and winning off offense. That division has won Super Bowls off defense. So, like I said, Coach Marv always saying every time he comes on there about history. A lot of people don't like history, but history is one of the essential things of life, man. It if you don't know the history, how you know where you're going, how you know your makeup. So that's why I, try to stress, and I try to stress that out to our young uh, African American kids. They're taking history away from you. They're trying to make sure you don't learn history. If you learn history, you will understand the soundness and the things that makes you up, makes your DNA. And if you ever can get back that, if it's been successful, you ever can get back to that, even though the times have changed, you could be in a successful light. And that's why I try to tell the Cowboys, get back to their DNA that has made one of them Super Bowls. They got back to it. Had a DNA in the 60s and they had a DNA in the 70s. They got back to that same DNA in the 90s and they were successful. If they can get back to that DNA now, they'll be successful again. And we'll be holding up Lombardi trophies again. And we'll get 6, 7, and 8. But we have to get back to our DNA. So, thinking that going back to the schedule, so when we talk about the NFC East, as I said, the NFC East is a very tough division. But when I look at our Cowboys schedule, I kind of grade the schedule based off, okay, there's a couple of things that goes along with your scheduling. And maybe some of the fans out there don't know some of the things that goes along with scheduling. The NFL schedule in your conference, we in the NFC East. Every 4 years, every year we rotate playing games against an AFC conference. This year coming up, our conference that we're playing is the AFC West. So we'll play the AFC West in 2025. We won't see the AFC West again until 4 years from now. So every year we rotate a different division that our division plays all the teams in that division. And then there's a division in the NFC. We play out, and there's a division in the NFC that we rotate and we play every year. This year, the division that we're gonna play everybody in the NFC, other than our division, is the NFC North. And that NFC North consisted of Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago. In the AFC West that we're going to play this year, everybody in the NFC is going to play. Those teams are consisted of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. So that's 8 games that we make up of our season. Of the 17 games that we make up, 8 games are made up of those two divisions, and we rotate every year about what NFC East, NFC conference we play, and what AFC conference we play. And then you have the conference games you have in your own NFC East. So you got 3 teams you got to play there, and you got to play them twice. So that's 6 games. Add those other 8 games, that's 14. Then there's you got 3 more games where they pick out based off your seeding from last year, and they pick out different conference games or AFC conference game, or you play another NFC team from a different conference. You may play an NFC South team, or you may play a AFC North team. There's 3 games you pick up. They pick up the so you can pay some of the other conferences. If you're the best team in your conference at the end of last year, whoever you play in those other conferences is going to be the best team in those conferences. So what the NFL tries to do is, if you got a great record like the Philadelphia Eagles, they won, they're going to give them, when you start picking those last 3 games of how they're going to pick, they're going to probably play the best team in the division in those areas that were placed last year. So that's where, when you win the division, that's why your schedule is a little bit tougher. They can assume based off you're playing the top teams from the last year. Now, why do I say the Cowboys schedule is going to be consistent of a lot of mentally and physically tough teams? As I quoted and as I posted in Twitter, I said check the DNAs of the AFC West. That's our AFC conference we're going to play all the teams in, and the NFC North. There's some teams in those divisions, and we're going to add the Jets to our schedule. I know y'all look at Coach Marv. The Jets was horrible last year, but like I said, when I look at schedules, I don't look at what the teams did last year. I'm looking at the DNA of the coaches, and usually when I find the DNA of the coaches, I know what type of physicality or mental toughness the type of games is going to be, and then I look at home or away when I'm looking at those type of teams and those type of coaches and how they coach. Well, if you look at the AFC West, we're going to have to play Sean Payton in Denver, the Denver Broncos. Tough mentality. He's going to give a physical style. He's going to turn over every rock. His team is going to be disciplined, and they're going to be physical. We're going to play hardball in the Chargers. You only going to get physicality with them. They're going to come at you. They're going to come at you with a physical mentality. Now, sometimes people talk about, well, coach, you talking about they're going to run the ball. No, their total game is going to be physical. Yes, they're going to run the ball, but their total is going to be physical. And then you got so you're going to get another tough mentality coach in Pete Carroll. So that's going to be another tough, grinding out, tough guy. And if you want to talk about the run game, they drafted the running back. They drafted a running back to try to put that with Geno Smith to give him play action passes, and they're going to come tough with their defense. They're going to play tough, which that leaves the last. So you got Peyton, you got Harbaugh, you got Pete Carroll. Who that leaves in the AFC West? You got Denver, you got the Chargers, you got the Raiders. Oh, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, y'all want to talk about Patrick Mahomes, whatever, but if you're not coming to play physical football with the Kansas City Chiefs, you're not going to win. They're going to come one of the best defenses in the league. They're going to come, and that's going to be on Thanksgiving Day, so they're going to come with a lot of force. So, an Andy Reid team, or how they have been dominating in the last 3 years, that's a gauntlet. I'm not even talking about players. I'm talking about coaches' mentality, their DNA. All these coaches have got great DNAs, and you got to be ready. Your team, Schottenheimer has to come up and have his team ready to be able to deal with the mental things that we're going to come about, and we're going to talk about later on about how I will prepare and how Schottenheimer has to prepare to be ready for this. Now, you can know what we got in our division, up and coming Washington team. They're going to be ready with Dan Quinn. Philadelphia is the defending champs. They're going to be coming with swagger, with confidence. Once you climb that mountain and get to the top of Mount Everest, you have a swagger that gives you an individual confidence. Even though I think that team may be hurting a little bit with some of the people they lost, but that inner confidence, you have to beat them with that inner confidence. And then you're looking at the Giants. I think that's going to be the least of our worries in our division. How they run their organization, their coach. But let's go on to the NFC North, that's what we have to play. And those teams consist of the Detroit Lions. We already know what that coach over there, Dan Campbell, got. He's going to bring a tough mentality football team. They're going to be even more tougher on defense this year because they had, oh man, I think they lost about 7 or 8 guys to IR last year on defense. Matter of fact, they played the last couple of games in the regular season. They were playing with guys that were 4th or 5th string safeties, but they still was able to still get in those games. But it kind of hurt them at the end. But that shows that they have the mentality to be able to overcome those type of injuries and still have the best record in the NFC. Now, sometimes, like coach will tell you, and y'all can say it, and I know a lot of y'all be talking about talent and acquisition. Yes, sometimes your mentality can take you a long way. But sometimes you run out of gas in certain things when it just get overbearing with injuries. And I think that their mentality, they had the right stuff, but it just overbearing, and they ran into a point where those overbearing of injuries got exposed, and it really hurt them. But their culture got them to the #1 team in the NFC, and so far in the playoffs. So let's look at that. When you look at Detroit, Minnesota last year, their new coach did a great job of getting that team ready, and they really battled Detroit. So I think that they got a very good culture setting in with them. You look at Chicago. Whoa, you say, well, coach, they were horrible. But listen, they got the offensive coordinator from Detroit. He's going to take some of that DNA because it's been successful in Detroit. Now he's going to take some of that DNA to Chicago. So we have to worry about that type of DNA on the coach. Like I said, I'm not looking at play. I'm not looking at the records. I'm looking at coach's DNA. And he's been successful with Dan Campbell the last 3 or 4 years that got him his job. So you don't think he's not going to take that DNA to Chicago? That's going to be another tough game. And then the last team in there is Green Bay. We already know our experiences with Green Bay. It's not been good. It's the funniest thing about that. I was just talking to some fellas. They were talking about, man, y'all can't beat Green Bay. And hopefully, I'm looking out there for anybody. Coach Marv is trying to get the Green Bay game on the 28th of September. Need 3 tickets. If somebody can throw some Coach Marv 3 tickets out, that would be great, man. If they get in touch with me, somebody, because be my first time coming to Dallas. I'm becoming one of my best friends as a Cowboy. He's the best Cowboy fan, and then the other one of my best friends. All these guys have been known for over 50 years. The other friend, he's been a Green Bay fan since day one. So I would love to convert him over being coming to Dallas and having a very good time in Cowboy Nation, because I know we're gonna come in there with a good record and to get over that hump with Green Bay. Because it's strange. I was laughing about it. I was like, man, in the 90s with Brett Favre, the Green Bay couldn't beat Cowboys. Every year that they come with a team, we just had that over Green Bay. We would play with a backup quarterback and still win. We just had that in the playoffs and regular season. We just had Brett Favre's number. Then it kind of changed it when Aaron Rodgers got there, and that still hadn't let up now. But we're gonna change it back this year. But going to those 4 teams there, all care DNAs are giving us problems and tough things. So look at the coaches' DNAs that we're playing. And then I said, add the Jets. Why did I say add the Jets? Where their coach came from, Detroit. That mentality, DNA, he's going to carry it forward because it was successful for getting him a job. So you're looking at very tough-minded DNAs of head coaches, all in this, all on our schedule. Wow, man, that's a lot. So we got to be tough and ready for this. And I'm not, a lot of people want to look at schedules. Don't worry about schedules. Look at the DNAs of the coaches, and you're going to tell how they're going to prepare for the games. Now, that means that we're going to have to be tough, because we got a lot of coaches on our schedule that are tough mentally, and they believe in physical football. So we got to be ready to be able to deal with that physicality, that mental toughness. So we came on live today to talk about, okay, let's talk about some real football. Like I said, this Coach Mar Real Talk. Let's talk about some real football. And I just turned on live chat, man, to see the chats that everybody was sending out there, man. Eddie, all these great people who came in here, man. Man, what's going on with y'all, man? I appreciate y'all in the building. Listen to Coach Marv, man. And hopefully, we're going to take some of the stuff Coach Marv, and we're going to put it out in the public, our Cowboy fans. And then they're going to be like, man, you talking some real football a little deeper than the surface stuff that we see on ESPN and Fox and all those places, man, because they just give you surface stuff that's highlight driven and fantasy, sort of fantasy type stuff. But I'm finna give you some what's going to help us get ready for that tough schedule that we got, and for those tough DNA coaches that we're going to be facing this coming year. When we talk about our Cowboys, we talk about, I hear people talk about culture. And we keep saying that word of culture. And that is very important. It's the building blocks of who you are and how you go about things. Your culture as a family is a building block about who you are as a person, because those are the things that your whole family was built on, and it goes on. It goes from generation to generation of those cultural structures that were built into your family. So that's who you are. So when we have those type things, we got to be able to look at it, and we want our culture to be something that's good, and we want to be something that's positive. And we look at it in football terms, you want to be identified, and your narrative you want to be set is based off what your culture is. Cowboys cultural narrative. The Cowboys cultural narrative. What is the Cowboys cultural narrative? And let's talk about the cultural narrative for the Cowboys in the last 5 years. It might be even longer than that. And when we talk about narrative, we talking about what people, what people think of you. What's the view of you when we talk about the narrative? What is our Cowboys football narrative? What is the Cowboys narrative? Cowboys narrative may not be a good narrative. There's 5 points that we're going to go over today that talks about that narrative. And each one of them, I'm going to give you a view of the Cowboys narrative, what I see of the Cowboys narrative, and I want you to be honest. And then you're going to probably figure out what's the problem. Now, in coaching, what I have learned in coaching, when you coach, and let me give y'all a little insight on some coaching things. Well, every week you play a different opponent. You don't play the same opponent twice, right? So when you come in, you play a different opponent. What happens when you play a different opponent? Okay, let's say we coming in, we playing another opponent, and we come in the locker room. Well, not locker room. We coming in for the first meeting for the next game. Well, the head coach usually has a general overview of the coach of the team they're gonna play, the next team we're gonna play on our schedule. And that general overview, he's gonna start out with that meeting with his coaches. The first meeting he's gonna have is with his coaches. You're gonna have that meeting with your coaches. Then after you have that general meeting with everybody, all the coaches, then you're gonna have a meeting with the offensive coordinator, and then you're probably gonna have a meeting with your defense coordinator. And then after that, then you're gonna take it to the players. And when you take it to the players, when you have the offensive defense coordinator, y'all gonna have a general talk about what we may see and how we're gonna do it. And then those coaches, those offensive coordinators, they go down and talk to their coaches, and the defensive coordinators go down and talk to their coaches. And then you are all united and have a vision, and then you take it to the players. You don't take that vision to the players until you have the vision set in stone in your mind. As coaches, you don't wait till you get on the field and then say, okay, we're trying to learn as we go. And we don't have a vision of what we want to do. Things gonna change here and there, but we have a vision of how we're going to attack the next opponent. So when the head coach come in, he gives a general overview. And what he's giving you is the narrative of the up and coming team as he see it, as what they have built. Sometimes he builds that narrative off because he knows because if I know the other head coach and know his style, yeah, I'm gonna build some of that narrative is gonna be built off. I already know this guy, been knowing him a long time. This is gonna be built off what we have somewhat seen in film, because we hadn't really studied the film because we're doing the first general narrative. It's gonna be the stuff we heard about, some of the players they have, maybe some of the style they might be doing. But we're gonna give a general narrative when we start seeing film and seeing all that stuff of the team. And I'm gonna give that to my coaches so I can build their confidence of how they're gonna go about attacking or get them on point to understand what they got to do to be good. So when I go to these 5 things that builds your general narrative, and we're gonna go one at a time, I'm gonna give you how I see the Cowboys last year or the last 5 years. And I want you to be honest when I go over these 5 points when we talk about the cultural narrative of each one of these things. So the first one, when we're talking about the cultural narrative, physicality. First cultural narrative, physicality. And I know y'all hear coach talk about physicality a lot. Everybody hears coach talk about physicality, but that's a cultural narrative. That is a view of how you are as a football team. So the first one, they talk about the physicality. Let's be honest with ourselves. Cowboy Nation, I want you to be really honest with yourself. If we viewed our team from a distance in the last 5 years, what would be the narrative? What would be the narrative of our physicality? I wouldn't call us a physical football team. I call us a physical football team in spurts. But when I look at a physical football team, I'm looking at a physical football team not just from the offense and defensive lineman. I'm looking for physicality I see all over the field. Special teams, receivers blocking, defensive backs getting off blocks. How we tackle. Every tackle ain't got to be a slobber knocker, a helmet flying off, but solid, crisp tackling. And anytime a guy get a chance the layer hit, he is gonna do that. Not no whistles. That me getting snatching people's head off, helmet off, and fighting. That ain't usually. Usually the guy who's trying to start fights is usually the guy getting beat physically during the game, and he wants to fight because he's getting beat physically. If you beat the guy physically all game, why would you want to fight him? Think about that. If you dominate him physically, why would you need to fight? Usually the guys who start to fight and started pushing and shoving usually are getting beat all game long. And they're trying to get back because they're getting beat physically. So if your team, you see your team and they always jumping out and they fighting and they starting a ruckus, I don't get too enamored with that saying, oh man, we ready to play. That means you losing the battle that sometimes we ain't looking at, and now you're trying to get back because they beating you physically or otherwise. So if I look at my Cowboys, I don't see that. I don't see a physical nature team. So if I was the coach giving a general outlook and I'm playing against the Cowboys, I may say it like this. That team that we about to play this week, we can really get after them. If we get after them, they'll maybe kind of fold. I think we're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage on this team. If we stay diligent to what we do and attack them, we can get somewhere on them. That's basically what the coach is saying is we can push this team around. He's not denigrating. He's not going to go up there and say, oh, man, they're a bunch of wussies and they ain't that. Now, if they get to that point, he's really talking about, but he's really relaying to his team, his coaches that I think we're more a physical football team. And if he does that to his coaches, what do you think they're going to tell their players? And what do you think their players are going to come in the game with the mentality already one up on you because they feel that they're more physical than you? You don't want that to happen. Now, let's look on the other end of how I would say that if I thought the team was physical. All right, the team we playing this week, they can get after us. We got to be very strong up front because they're trying to take over the line of scrimmage. They really try to control the line of scrimmage. So we got to be able to come off the ball. We got to be strong with the ball out there in our receivers to get off on our routes. They'll get up in us. We got to be tough and have our technique down to be able to their surge to meet their force with force. So what you telling your coaches now? You telling that team over there, we're not scared of them, but they coming with force. And we got to be ready to match force with force. So if you say it that way, they're going to relay that to their players. That don't mean their players are going to be scared. But their players are going to know that we're not no pushovers. So physicality, I don't think the Cowboys, if we looked at the narrative of them, the cultural narrative that have been set for the last 5 years, I would say that they were a physical football team. So that's not them. So if they're not a physical football team, physicality, that's a bad cultural narrative. Let's go to number 2. Discipline. Cultural narrative number 2. How disciplined is your football team? These are the foundation blocks. These 5 I'm about to give you, Cowboy Nation. We could talk about all the X's and O's. If you ain't got these foundational blocks that I'm about to give you, these 5 I'm about to give you, if you're weak in these areas, you ain't winning no Super Bowl. I ain't saying they guarantee you win the Super Bowl, but I can guarantee you ain't. Not in football. There's no guarantee to win, but I can guarantee if you ain't got these, you'll be watching it in February like I'm watching it. Because they're going to show up. These 5 things going to show up in the most, you know where they usually show up? In big games. They might not show up when you're playing teams that ain't good as you, maybe talented or whatever. But when you're playing teams that just as good as you, physicality and number two, discipline is going to show up. Now, let's be honest. Do we think we had a disciplined football team in the last 5 years? How many times we talked about penalties? How many times we talked about pre-snap penalties? How many times we talked about players just doing things, special teams, tafus, just discipline? How many times we talked about with our defense coming off the field every time the team start running, well, we ain't making our run fits. We not in our run fits. How many times we talking about we were running option routes? Well, they was on the wrong page. How many times we heard Mike McCarthy talk about, oh, well, we just had a bad practice? Or back when we had the other defensive coordinator and we got people shouting, telling on the defensive coordinator and just acting like he wasn't even a defensive coordinator. Did you want to say our team has been a disciplined football team for the last 5 years? Now, if I did the cultural narrative from another coach, would I say the Cowboys were disciplined? Now, let's give you how that would go when I'm talking about when I come to my coaches to get the cultural narrative. When I talk about this, I say, well, we can get after this team with, physical. But I really think we can really let this team really let us in the game because they'll make mistakes. They'll give us some breaks in the game because they'll make mistakes and we'll be able to capitalize on those mistakes. They're going to give us some hidden yardage if we continue to, just stay strong and not let them have no big plays. They'll give us some hidden yardage and they're going to make some mental mistakes because if we do some formations or do some things on offense or we do some things on defense, they're not going to really keep to their keys and we're going to be able to attack them on certain things. What's that telling your coaches? That's telling your coaches that, hey, man, you put in the game plan and you got a game plan and we stick to that game plan, whatever game plan they're going to put in, eventually they're going to turn it, they're going to give it back to us because they're not a disciplined football team. Now, if I was given that same narrative and I felt that it was a disciplined football team, I'll come in and say, hey, this team is not going to give us anything. We got to make sure that we don't give them hidden yardage with penalties or stuff like that because they're not going to give it to us. They're going to be on their assignments, and if we don't do the things we need to do, they're going to capitalize on our mistakes. So we got to be sound as a football team. That's not saying we're scared, but that's putting our team on alert, our coaches on alert, who's going to put our players on alert, that we got to play a clean football game because they're not going to give us anything. But if we look at our narrative of our team, our cultural narrative, do we think we are disciplined? Let's be honest. Number two, I would say in the last 5 years, this is the same thing again. All these things I'm saying is what Schottenheimer has to start off right now changing, and I believe he can. But the two of them, the cultural narrative, what people going to think coming in this year, is those two things because you built off the cultural narrative for what you have shown in the past. Number three, mental toughness. The third thing in just building the culture there, the building blocks to your net culture and building the cultural narrative. These are the things, these culture is going to be able to get us through this tough schedule. Because we don't have one or two, and now we ain't got three, it's going to be hard, people. It's going to be hard. But mental toughness is number three. What is mental toughness? Mental toughness is a team that can deal with adversity and they can deal with success. They stay even keel. They're not going to let you back into a game by making mistakes. They're going to keep the pressure up. And when you get on them and hit them in the mouth, they're going to be able to adjust and get back to their game plan and impose their will on you. That's mental toughness. That's the team that could go on the road and get and Coach Marv talked about this last year, a couple of years ago, on Twitter, and I'm going to talk about it on my live stream on this show here, because I'm gonna bring a lot of that stuff that I posted on Twitter and said in the watch parties. I'm bringing it to my channel. The mental tough teams know how to gangster a victory. Mental toughness and mental tough teams would go into Philadelphia on a Thursday night, opening night of the season, and gangster a victory in a hostile, livid, on top of the world atmosphere. But you can't go into Philly in that atmosphere if you're not mentally tough as a football team. Now, you're going to say, well, Coach, we got some players. Listen, I say football team. I need all of them. I need the overall culture of the team to be a mentally tough football team. Now, if you look at the Cowboys in the last 5 years, would you call them a mentally tough football team? I'll wait. If you're in the chat, I don't know if it's some people in the chat. If you're in the chat, if you're viewing this and you see this in this and you viewing this, put in what you think. Now, I mean, we may have lost some in the chat, but we're gonna post this over again. We're gonna repost this again. But listen, are we a mentally tough football team? We look at our team in the last 5 years. No. We had 1 year we couldn't win that on the road. Every time we go on the road, we blow it up. Then the next year we can't win on the road. Then we can't win. We win at home. Look at our record last couple of games at home. How we playing bad at home. We had a head coach say we can't handle success. It seemed like when we started getting in a bind, we was in shock against Green Bay. We got people running wide open. That's mental toughness, man. That mental toughness and discipline. Because mental toughness means you lock in. When stuff not going bad, we get hit in the mouth, we kind of fold. When stuff don't go right on the offense, we pound and stuff like that. I'm not talking about players, because the players are just acting with the DNA of what the coaches have set up. So we're not really mentally tough football team. How would I say the mentally tough thing? If I was coaching, I'm coming in, giving that cultural narrative, giving that narrative of the next team. If I felt the team was not a mentally tough football team, this is how the narrative would probably go. The team we think about this team that we're playing this week. If we hit them in the mouth, they have a tendency to kind of fold. So if we're aggressive at the beginning and get up on them, we can make it have our way, because they'll drop their heads. If we're not, and we making mistakes, or we're not playing our best, they're gonna do things. They're gonna get overconfident. They're gonna let us back in the game. They're not gonna sustain that fired upness, because they usually don't do that, and they're gonna let us back in the game, and then we could be able to get back in the game and control the tempo of the game. As long as we try to impose our will, we're not gonna give us too much pushback. So what you saying about the team? You're saying the team is front runners. Remember what Green Bay said? You know, remember what Green Bay were? That's what they're saying. They didn't say you ain't talented. They say you front runners. They ain't said there's no team out there that say the Cowboys ain't talented. All these people be talking about Dak Prescott, this, he ain't get 60 million. Most of the players in the league be saying, man, Dak can ball. CeeDee Lamb can ball. Parsons can ball. Them guys, Zach Martin and Tyler Smith, they can ball. When they had DeMarcus Lawrence, they could ball. Diggs, they could ball. Teams ain't saying none of that. But they are talking about being mentally tough. What San Francisco Kittle say about talking about y'all don't like, you know, what you said about Parsons. Hey, we ain't like y'all. This. They're saying that we're not mentally tough. And think about it, you know. Now, if I was given the narrative about a team that I felt was mentally tough, I'm saying, hey, man, coming in this game, listen, this team is going to stay at it. We got to be on top of our game. If they hit us with a blow, we got to be able to be self-evaluate early on that sideline and get back in it because they're going to keep the pressure on us. And if we get at them, we got to continue to put the pressure on them because they'll be looking for an opportunity to get back in the game. I'm telling you that team don't quit. And you got to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves. Goes back to what they saying with the discipline. But still yet, that's a narrative you'll give if you felt the team you were playing had mental toughness. Like I said again, we got 3 things in already. Physicality, discipline, and mental toughness. These things ain't going to guarantee you to have a successful season. They're not going to guarantee you win a Super Bowl. They will guarantee if you have these 5 things that you're going to be in the mix for the championship. It's not guaranteeing you're going to win the championship, but guess what? Don't have them. And you'll be watching the Super Bowl with me at a Super Bowl party. If you was on the team. Just as plain and simple. That's number 3. Tough mentally. Mental toughness is a key. So we're going to number 4. Coaching and leadership. Coaching and leadership. Coaching and leadership. Let's think about it. I'm going to give you the same thing. We did the first 3. If you're honest with yourself, the cultural narrative of the team, with the physicality, the discipline, the mental toughness, how you feel about your coaching and leadership? Man, you had guys that should have been in the NFL coaching, man, in certain positions. Linebacker, running back. I mean, it's some questions about some of Greg Ellis. I love him. He's a Cowboy guy, but he never coached before. You talking about him coaching your defensive line, defensive end. Man, I'm telling you. And then the leadership part. Like I said, when you talking about your team, listen, I'm going to put it like this. Boss Cowboy always talked about this. And man, I hope one day Boss Cowboy get in the chat. I know, but he always working. He always out there got live shows on. So he ain't got time when I may be going on. He might be on live now. I be going on live with him. And I'm giving a shout out, Boss Cowboy, because I'm only on this stuff because of Boss Cowboy. And that's why I give him a shout out. I ain't got to talk to Boss in weeks and months, but we always on the same page. And I think his ideas are good, even though I may not agree with him all of it, but I know his heart is, and he knows what mine is. But I would say this. He taught me something about this. And I ain't never, I've been coaching and hearing, but he's one that said this, and I use it today now. When he look at coaching, he looks at the room. God Almighty. Like I said, great players can't take bad coaching, but he said, look at the room. If the room is not coming up to the expectations, then that's the coaching thing. If the first three that I named, physicality, discipline, and mental toughness, is lacking in your team, you got problem coaching and leadership. You got problems in coaching and leadership. And if you ain't got the first three and you ain't got coaching and leadership, I ain't saying that's guarantee you going to win a Super Bowl or win a division or win a name, but I can guarantee you, you're not. We don't have leadership to have direction to build that cultural thing about being disciplined. We don't have that leadership to make it accountable for us to have the point of saying, hey, we need to outwork other teams so we can build a mentality of being physical. We don't have the mentality of saying leadership going to show us they're great leaders of men promote confidence, not fear. Now, I know ain't nobody else say that's Coach Marv original. Great leaders of men promote confidence, not fear. Not fear. Great leaders of men can promote confidence, not fear. And our coaching not utilizing guys in the right manner. Like I said, great players, yeah, I always tell you, man, and I'm saying it again, two things I want you to pick up on. Leaders of men promote confidence, not fear. And the other thing I want you to know this is coaches, they can't make talent. I've said this on another live stream. I'm gonna say it again. They can't make talent. Only thing coaches can do is they can do 4 things with talent. If they get a talented player, they can do 4 things. That's it. They can't make them because only mom and dad can make them. But they can motivate the talent. They can refine it by doing stuff to make it better, refine it, buff it up, get it better in certain areas. They can hold the talent accountable, hold it accountable for performing like it's supposed to perform, and accountable for doing the action they're doing to make that talent shine, and then put it in the right spot for it to shine. That's all they can do. And I think sometimes we ain't motivate our talent. I don't think our talent was motivated all the time. I definitely don't think we held our talent accountable like they're supposed to be. In some areas, I don't think we refine our talent. No, we ain't put it in the right spots. Think about it. Cowboy Nation, be honest with you. When you look at the cultural narrative of our team in those 3 areas, you talked about the physicality, talked about the discipline, you talked about the mental toughness, and we talked about the coaching and leadership. How did you look at your team? Same thing I'm gonna give you again. How that narrative is given. If I'm coming in and talking about a team and I feel that team is maybe lacking coaching thing, I'm gonna say, hey, they're gonna make some mistakes on that sideline. They're gonna be so aggressive on certain things. We're gonna be able to get them, and we're gonna be able to attack them when they're aggressive on things. We're gonna pay attention to detail. They may be lacking some details. They're going to be over aggressive and sometimes they're going to be under aggressive, and we're going to be able to attack them. Keep the pressure on them. They will not follow. They'll go different directions. That's telling you that they don't feel that team is coached well from the sideline, and they're not led. I ain't talk bad about the coach. I just gave you the cultural narrative and tell you how I felt. And what the cultural narrative is what you have seen on film and what the team has shown you. Now, you're not going to change that in one game. The cultural narrative don't change in one game. You have to look. I think the OC talked about that, and we talked about that when we were talking about Terrence Steele. Or talking about a player. Yeah, 1 game, 2 games. But if you put 5, that's how you build your. Schottenheimer is not going to build his narrative in one preseason game. It's staying to the grind every day in training camp and building that over the first 4 to 5 games of this year. And regardless of what the outcome, staying with it. Because it's going to pay dividends off for you. So number 4, coaching and leadership. Number 5, and the final one, talent. You say, oh man, coach, how can talent be a cultural narrative? Well, talent is that's what you try to get on your football team. You got to acquire talent. Now, this is where I'm going to differ with Cowboy Nation. And y'all probably going to tear me up with this. This is where we're going to differ in Cowboy Nation. A lot of y'all going to say, well, coach, they go out and get free agents. They just doing through the draft. The ownership ain't getting them no talent. Talent is probably the only part of the last 5 years I would check off as a positive. Talent is every coach narrative that talked about the Cowboys, talent was not one of the things that they talked about as a negative about them. Only thing they may have talked about is when they had some injuries. But other than that, teams respect the Cowboys' talent. Because you don't have as many Pro Bowlers and all pros, because in the last 5 or 10 years, there ain't been but one team, or Kansas City, that may have had more. Man, you had 2 Hall of Fame offensive linemen. They might have been hurt, but 2 guys is first ballot. You drafted a guy now that is on the way of putting up great numbers like the guy that was a first ballot guard. Come on, man. Zeke Elliott, I'm talking about 5 years ago, man. Tony Pollard, come on, man. Yeah, Mari Cooper when he was 5 years ago, when he was better. CeeDee Lamb. Dalton Schultz wasn't a bad football player. DeMarcus Lawrence was not a bad top 100. Michael Parsons. Diggs, look at the season he had. Bland, the season he had. Listen, man. You want to talk about that we didn't have talent. We had talent. And listen, how many guys you got starting to make this team that was undrafted? Let me tell you something. When you have a team like the Cowboys that hit so well on undrafted free agents, man, listen, hitting on first round draft picks and second round draft picks, most of the people already know the consensus of these guys should be a first or second round pick. But when you hit on a guy that's an undrafted free agent that went through 300 picks and nobody picked him, and you got him and he ended up starting for your team, man, let's see it. That's scouting. That's pulling through the weeds. Now, as that talent developed and gotten all the other stuff and gotten to the mountain or really being good enough to keep developing and get better, that's where the other 4 came in play. And that's why I said it's not a guarantee that you're going to win. But if you ain't got 4 to 5 of these, they're gonna come back and risk and rear their head in the most important games. You could be lacking some of your talent. Some of your talent could be hurt. And you got those 4 already, the 4 previously ones. You still could be what? NFC champions, Detroit Lions. 8 guys on their defense, their best defensive guys on IR, and they still got to. But that talent on defense reared its head. They still couldn't. It come to a point where it runs out. But still, yet look how far they got. You're not gonna get this from people. I need y'all to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you got any type of platform out there, please share this and put your comments. You're not gonna get this from nowhere place else, man. This 5 things that I came up with is not this something I got for some book. This Coach Mob's philosophy. And there's gonna be some people gonna look at it and say, you know something? There's coaches all around they know that these 5 things. You lacking these 5 things, you can't be a good football team. You may be imposters. You may beat up on the down feeders. You may just, but when you get into tough games, you're going to come up short. Because the other team got these things in spades. And they're going to lay them down like a Boston game time. In talent, I think we got, but the other 4 in front of this talent can make this talent not look as good, man. And those other things, man, you got to have those other things that we talked about. You got to have those other things. You got to have the physicality. You got to have the discipline. You got to have the mental toughness. We got to have coaching and leadership on this team. All to make this talent and whatever talent you have the best it can be. We're talking about cultural narrative changed. And I didn't tell you how I would tell you about the Cowboys. If let me give you what the coach would say if he thought the team was not talented. He would say, "Hey man, they really don't have nobody over there that really can attack us. I think we got the better players that we can attack them more than they got some injuries. They got some guys out. I don't think they got some, but we got to be. They're still a talented football team. They still in the same division of we are. They still put on their pants like we do. But I think we got an upper hand on talent. That's saying that you don't think the team is talented. But I can tell you that when people talk about the Cowboys, I bet it goes like this. Man, that team over there got some ballers. And if we allow them to get in rhythm and get out there and start front running, they can hurt us with a lot of different. That Parsons, that Dak Prescott, that CD Lamb, that Diggs, that Bland, them 2 guys on the offensive line, they get rolling, they can hurt us. They got talent. But we're going to be able to attack them in other areas. The 5 things, people, of building a culture. These are 5 things I'm talking about in building a culture. These are the 5 things I'm talking about of building your cultural narrative. These are the 5 things, people, that Schottenheimer, our head coach, have to correct. Because if you're honest, these 5 things I put up on that screen, physicality, discipline, mental toughness, coaching and leadership, and talent, If you're honest, if you say I'm going to take away talent, if let's say you say, well, I don't even think they had enough talent, then if you're really honest, you really saying that we ain't had none of the five. But if we ain't had the first four, we had to have five to win 12-5 3 years in a row. And then when Dak Prescott's out, to go 17. And the coaching leadership fell apart the last time because he had lame duck coaches. But we never won big games. And why didn't we win big games? Playoff games, bigger games against Kansas City, teams of bigger nature. We done played Kansas City. We didn't lost that game because we didn't get no offense. We done played the bigger teams. Every year, it comes down to why when we get in big games, we don't have certain things. Because of these five things. These are the five things, people. A lot of these content creators ain't going to talk about this. But Coach Marv is going to talk about this all year long, and I'm going to refurbish this same video. When it comes down, we have a big game, we come up below. And I'm going to be able to point back probably to some of these same things. This is what's going to make us or break us get ready for one of the toughest schedules with the DNA coaches that we're going to face. Because let me tell you something. Pete Carroll team going to have all these things in spades, these five in spades. Harbaugh going to have these five things in spades. He's building these five things. Sean Payton is building these five things in Denver. Andy Reid already got these five things. They just building upon that. You know that they got them in Detroit. You know that Chicago is going to take these things and try to get these DNA cultural things in Chicago. You know the Jets going to try to get these cultural things because that's what they took from Detroit. They already got these in Green Bay. Minnesota showed some of these things last year. Philadelphia got these in spades. And Dan Quinn is trying to put these things in winning. Now, people say, well, Dan Quinn came from Husband. But if you look at the defense, they have some of these things. But hey, your culture is based off who your head coach is. It ain't based off the assistant coaches. Who house is based off their sons or their daughters? Or the maid? Or the butler? Or the cleanup guy? The culture of their family. If you're in a family, and they ain't got to be the head, who is the head? It could be the father, or it could be the mother. If it's no father, there's no father in the house. Or if there's no father in the house, there's no mother in the house. That adult, the father or the mom, there are the cultural setters of the house. And if they're not, I always come up with this say. I always say this. My education is based in math. And I always say, if the decimal is not in the right place, the answer is wrong. So when we talk about dysfunctional, if everybody's not put in their right place and they're doing their role, then you got dysfunction. And with dysfunction, it may not show up until stress comes. And when stress hits, when really stress hits, it's going to have that hiccup where the dysfunction is, and you just hoping that dysfunction don't knock it off the track and it blows everything up. So 5 things, people. And I talked about the cultural narrative that the Cowboys have out there that they got to get rid of so they can get advantage of other teams and teams to look at them in a different light. So that's going to come in these first 5 or 6 games of this year. Mm-hmm. Usually in the first 4 games of a new year in the NFL, you really building your culture for that year. Then you got a seasonal culture, and then what you do is you try to invest that culture so it becomes a culture of the DNA of the team. But every year there's a different team, so there's a culture for every team every year. Well, what Schottenheimer has to do is he has to set a strong culture for this season. What I talked about before, we talking about one text or whatever, talking about all this. He has to set a culture that said, damn it, nobody's going to run against us, and we're going to be dedicated to stopping the run. And I think we got enough talent to do it. Now, if we looking to get some great fix-all and get somebody in there and say, oh, we done made it because we got a big one tech, or we only got 2 big one techs, then we ain't going to start the run again. Because we're looking for something other than mentality. Now, I ain't saying you don't need no players. But do you think we got that lack of players? And I always say this, man. And film don't, and I know it's a big misconception about Olsen in his run defense film. And people say, man, I see him getting knocked back. Man, there ain't a defensive lineman out there that don't get knocked back. Chris Jones get embarrassed. It was wild to get, yeah. Come on, man. But I say this, man. We got to hold them accountable. Again, what we do, we take out most talented players. We got to motivate them to say, hey, man, it takes 11 guys to stop the run. And everybody thinks it's this. I hear people talking about, man, they're going to get the DTs. That's going to stop the run. Man, listen, I've learned in coaching, and somebody need to tell somebody this. To stop the running game takes 11 guys. And if you got 4 or 5, 2 or 3 guys say that they're going to stop the running game, and the other guys ain't dedicated to really stopping the running game, you ain't going to stop it. Put the best defensive tackles in the league out there. If they ain't dedicated on the defensive ends, they ain't dedicated to linebackers, safeties, and corners of shutting the run game down. And when you see good teams that got great defenses, it's 1 through 11 say, hey, we can't let them run the ball. If you ain't got that, you got a problem. And that falls into the 5 things I told y'all. You got to have a cultural narrative about you're going to be tough enough physically. The team got to know you physically. They know discipline. You're going to stand in those, you're going to be in those fits, and you mental toughness. If they get a run on you, you're going to come right back out there and shut it down. And when you go run the ball, you're not going to just run against brick wall, but you got to be able to run. You can't go out there. I hear people always talking about, man, we're going to go out there and we're going to throw the ball, and that's going to loosen up, and they're going to get out of the box, and we're going to run the ball. Man, listen here. This guys ain't in the box. People stop running with less people in the box every day. People been playing 4 high against us for the longest. Check the records. Daring us to run the ball. And then we ran the ball. Sometimes we couldn't run the ball. That means they were more mentally tough to us where they could put less up there and still defeat us. Because we were mentally tough to say, man, hey, you might beat us with the same number, but you damn sure ain't going to beat us with less of a number. That's why I say, man, those 5 things we didn't have in spades. We had those in clubs. And in the spade game, having clubs, all the clubs and no spades, guess what? You're gonna lose that. Coach Marvin's talking about building culture, not brand. None of these 5 things that I just put on this list, physicality, discipline, mental toughness, coaching and leadership, and talent, is going to build your brand, Jerry Jones. Nobody's going to be talking about that in commercials. It ain't going to sell no tickets but to the real football fans. It's going to sell tickets if you got all 5 of these, because it's going to sell tickets because you're going to be winning games. And you're going to be winning big games. But you ain't going to put this on no t-shirt. They sell it. Coach Marv might put it on a t-shirt. 5 things to build and culture, to building the cultural narrative. That's what you want. And we very honest with ourselves. The narrative of our culture was weak because those 5 things we were lacking. And I think Schottenheimer, his first job is to build those things. And building a narrative and a culture starts in training camp. Nobody wants to talk about the training camp. Everybody talking about the game 1, but there's a lot of work that got to be done. And you can build the toughness. You can build and they don't have to be all out there knocking each other upside the head. But you're going to have to stress their bodies. They're going to have to be tired. They got to be mentally fatigued with football for those 4 or 5 weeks. So that means you got to have meetings. That means you got to do something, Schottenheimer, this training camp, that's way unusual, that has been happening in the training camps before, to add stress. So you can build this culture that you're going to need to deal with this gauntlet of a schedule with these tough DNA coaches. Cowboy Nation, let me tell you something. I've said this before. The talent difference between NFL teams is minute. It comes down when you talk about the best of the best playing, and then when you go to the best of the best in teams, it comes down to which team can make less mistakes and impose their will on another good player. I've heard some people talking about, man, we got Pickens and Lamb and this and that. They're gonna have to double some people. Listen, man, they got teams, they got players on the other side say, man, we ain't got to double Lamb every play. Who is he? And I know we think, because we look at our player and say, man, you got to double him. If you don't double him, he's gonna catch it. Man, these guys are NFL players, man. And if they're on another good team, don't you think they got good receivers they got to play against every day? That's not no discredit to Lamb. But just don't look at it and say, man, just because we got this name and that name, that ain't nobody going to be able to stop us. We got to impose our will on another person, and we got to be tough enough to know if we lose a battle, we're going to win the war. But when we're not mentally tough, or a team is more physical and have a more physical presence, or we beat ourselves with undisciplined stuff, well, when our coaches lack discipline and leadership skills from the sideline, when they look afraid, or they put you in bad situations by making dumb bonehead decisions, we lose those type of games. That's when we lose those type of games. And if you honest with yourself, Cowboy Nation, that doesn't happen more than one time. And we try to blame it on one player, try to blame it on this, but we made some mistakes. We lost a game in a playoff game. We got a record amount of penalties. We come back the next year, we don't make the plays when we had Diggs, and this is not shout bad on Diggs. drop the interception, a penalty to get on the safety to get the guy in the end zone to put him in first and goal on third down, and they score the game leading touchdown. Not running the ball more, putting our team in bad situations. We came to Green Bay, not mentally, guys running wide open. We talking about the linebackers, but if the linebackers got to do with guys running down the field wide open on crossing routes, on down the sideline, would Dak try to throw a slant pattern, the receiver not crossing the face? Sloppiness. How many games we lost like that? But we want to talk about, but we're still putting guys in the Pro Bowl. But we don't have the things that's the salt to win a thing. We don't have the salt to win the games that we need to win. We don't have the salt of the things that's going to put us in championship row. We don't have the salt of the things that's going to put us in championship row. These 5 things: building a new cultural narrative, that's going to prepare us to be ready for this gauntlet of playoffs, of the season. Y'all need to share this information. Because this ain't talking about, man, we need to get a one tech, man, what free agents out there. Definitely ain't talking about what Michael Parsons' salary be. I think that's when y'all going crazy. They got y'all now. They got you on this media frenzy now to make you jump around by Michael Parsons, why he ain't got his contract. Well, they put him, they got he's supposed to got this, and then he ain't get it. Now y'all gonna start jumping out there talking about every person out there gonna start talking about why they ain't signed him and all this. Micah ain't going nowhere, man. The draft over, he gonna get his money. Don't pay no attention, it'll get done faster. But if Micah's not ready to lead our team in these 5 things, because he's gonna be the part of the talent. But that leadership role got working. That not only the leadership, but he got to work in. They got to be in. And Schottenheimer has to set the tone, and he got to set his generals, his sergeants. The generals are the coaches, and then they're gonna have sergeants on the field like the Parsons and the Dax and the C. Lambs. So you start with the head guy. Now, y'all people want to say it's talk with the Jones. Jones ain't got nothing to do with the field or set the mentality. They can go out there and talk, but they ain't with the team. They ain't talking to the team every day. One thing, they're going to see the head coach every day. His coach is going to meet with him every day. So everything got to be run through the head coach. He's the captain of the ship. His mentality flows down to the generals, which is his head is offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, and that flows to his coaches. And then that flows, and then there's certain sergeants on the field that we put as sergeant, and those are your Pro Bowl players, like C.D. Lamb, the Dak Prescott, the Michael Parsons, the Tyler Smiths. Yeah. But they still saying the same message that is being put on there by what? Schottenheimer. That's heavy of the crown. When you're assistant coach, I don't care how strong-minded you are, you still got to go through what your head coach still running the show and setting the mentality. And yeah, if y'all the same type of people, you fall in. If there's certain differences, you got to make sure you put it over with, like he said. And then if you want to put it the way you want it, get your own job. That's his job. And I hope he see it. I hope somebody get this video to him. Because he done seen it before. He know what this is the building the blocks of. Every good team he been on got these blocks. I ain't guaranteeing you, Cowboy Nation, you're gonna win a Super Bowl with him. I ain't guaranteeing you're gonna win a Super Bowl with him. Somebody, because you got some people out here waiting on to say, Coach said, if we got these things, we gonna win a Super Bowl. There ain't no doubt if we got these things, we gonna win a Super Bowl. Nope. But I will tell you this. Don't have these, and I guarantee you ain't gonna win one. Because you still gotta have some breaks to go for you. Look at the draw. I mean, certain things got to go. You can't have no injuries. And if you got injuries, look how many teams they have. Listen, I'm put it like this. I hate to talk about these Eagles, but that's how I talk. And I hate to talk about Kansas City. But just think about it. People don't understand the Kansas City when they won their back-to-back championships. They had 4 or 5 guys on IR. They had injuries, big time injuries, all during the year. See, they keep winning. Nobody talk about the injuries, but they had big time injuries. But their culture gets them through their injuries because everybody fits, and you have a very good culture. You will have that next man up really kind of works because now you know how to fit and get peers to overcompensate, not overcompensate, but to make up. Jay Novacek was on a show last year with Boss and Law Nation, and he was talking about when a guy's missing, everybody knows that they got to come up and they got to play a little tougher and a little cleaner so they can get through with another guy missing. That's why the Cowboys had injuries back in the 90s, man. Troy Aikman was hurt one Super Bowl. But listen, guys being hurt didn't stop them. No, you ain't gonna lose all your players, but the culture carried them through. People don't understand that Jalen Hurts missed 3 games last year for the Eagles. Brown missed 3 or 4 games. Smith missed 3 games or 4 games himself. They still won a Super Bowl, didn't they? They got rid of Hassan Reddick. The big guy from Georgia, he don't even play. They got another guy to come up there. Listen, same team couldn't stop the run in nowhere last 5 games of last season. Bring back the same players minus some players. Guess what? They ain't go out there and get no big guys. Say we need to get a one tech. We need other. They got their mentality together to stop the run. The new defense coordinator came in and said, "Hey, ain't nobody running on us," and I mean that. And if you don't fit that mold with all 11 guys, we're gonna find somebody else. And if you're a guy that's want to rush the passer and you don't want to stop the run, you got to find another team. And that's just how it is. So I'm not worried about, but I'm not denigrating my people out there, YouTube, my Cowboy Nation people who out there saying that they're clamoring for to get a guy, their campaigns. I just think we do have enough. And I want to see how we prepare. Are we going to be able to prepare the right way to get these 5 things so we can have that cultural set in place, because that's going to take you a long way. That's going to take our team a long way. My next video, I want to say this one thing, and I'll say that last. I say when I talk about these 5 things, remember your parents or your grandparents or your mom and dad or people in your life says that manners will take you a long way more than money will ever take you. You ever heard that before? When people tell you manners is going to take you a long way, that money may not be able to take you. And that's the truth. These 5 things that I talked about today will take teams a long way and sustain them through a run that you can say that's dominant. All the teams that you know that's great, go over this list with it and ask yourself seriously, did they have these things? And I guarantee you, you come with all these great teams got had these things in spades. And I guarantee you'll go and see some of these teams that just on the bottom half of the league, they ain't got these things. Or you can have talent, you can be such a talented team that you don't have those other things in spurts. Cowboys ain't had have some of these other things in spurts. That's how I say they're so talented, man. They ain't made the game easier for Dak Prescott. I've heard people now start to talk about that with Cowboys. They set up our best players on the offense. Our best players are set up for us to throw the ball around the yard, and I see the fever already building. That hey man, yeah, we can run the ball sometime, but our best weapons is throw the ball around the yard. Cowboy Nation, if you're promoting that stuff, you're part of the problem. I'm just gonna say, man, when we talk about so much weapons that we can't do it, we got so many weapons. We had 14 penalties against San Francisco. Do you remember that playoff game? We had 14 penalties. Do y'all remember that game? And you got Pickens now, and you talking about and you talking about Ferguson's gonna have a bigger season. And I think he will. And you talking about all the weapons you had, and the weapons you got now. Talking about we got to put the ball. Do you remember when that team had a 5 year ago Ezekiel Elliott, where Ezekiel Elliott still can run the ball very well, and Tony Pollard ran for 1,000 yards. He was explosive then, going how many explosive plays he had, and Ezekiel Elliott was still a good running back. I ain't talking about now. I'm talking about 5 years ago now. That was 5 years ago. Don't you know Mari Cooper was a better player 5 years ago? He was on that team. Don't you know CeeDee Lamb was on that team? Don't you know they had a healthy Michael Gallup on that team and a Cedric Wilson on that team? Don't you know that they had a Dak Prescott on that team? A healthy Tyron Smith, who was a Hall of Famer, a Zach Martin on that team? And y'all talk about and you had a Dalton Schultz on that team. But now you said you got so much talent, you must be forced to do that. And don't you know you threw the ball too much then? And you didn't run the ball in the playoffs and you lost? And you about to do this, you about to promote the same mistake again? Because Pickens now wasn't as good as Amari Cooper did. And you about to do it again. I got people already saying, oh man, well, that's where our strength at. So that Cowboy Nation, man, we our own worst enemy. And I ain't talking about running the ball with a cloud of dust, man. But we have to set the table. Let me tell you something, man. Defense again is going to take us win the championship. The season is all on our defense. History tells you the Cowboys ain't never won without a dominating defense. Just like the Pittsburgh Steelers ain't never won without a dominating defense. And then they had some of the greatest offensive guys in the history. Cowboys have had some of the greatest offensive guys in history. But neither one of them teams have won without a dominating defense. And if they try and do it offensively, it just ain't working. So we're gonna get into some things, man. We're really gonna try to get into some things, man. But these 5 things, man, are the things of building a cultural narrative, man. These are the building blocks of building a new culture. And I didn't say that word, a new culture and identity. I want our identity and our culture to be these 5 things. I want people to give glowing opinions about us in those type of things. I want the other teams to give glowing opinions about us in those 5 things, because then I know that we have a edge advantage on the teams we're playing, because we already set a tone that we are already got them mentally at a disadvantage, because they understand that we're not going to beat ourselves. We're going to bring the fight to the team. We're going to be a team that's going to be sound, and we're not going to be defeated. We're not going to get down. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to even kill team. You got to bring it. We're going to make great decisions on that sideline. And we got some talented football players. And when we got people thinking of us in that nature, and our cultural narrative is set so high to teams that we have built a new cultural identity of being solid in those 5, we got a potential for a dynasty. Because that's what dynasties are built off of. And they continue to keep on doing that. I always say it about the military. Military take people from all over the country. But it's only one military. You come in there as talented soldiers. Some come in with very talented mechanisms, talented, bringing talent into the military. You come in there with talent, but you have to align your talent with their culture. And if you align your talent with their culture, eventually what it is it comes out good. So you got to align yourself with their culture. And if you align yourself with their culture, you have a chance. And it's always the same. I don't care if a person come in from Louisiana or California. They come into the Army, all of them in the same culture. And I'm hoping Schottenheimer could build that type of culture with these 5 characteristics as a foundation to building a new culture and a new identity and changing the cultural narrative of the Dallas Cowboys. Because that's what's going to take us through this tough gauntlet of the season. That's going to be the foundation and the salt that's going to get us to a 12-win or a 13-win season. Without it, going through this with these coaches that we're going to play in their DNA, if we don't have these things, our season can be off kilter fast. And we could find ourselves struggling to make the playoffs. But I think we're going to do it. I think Schottenheim knows this assignment. I think we've gotten enough talent in here. Now is our chance. For now, he's got to build a culture, and then he's got to motivate this talent. He got to refine his skills. He got to hold his team accountable, this talent accountable, and then he got to put them in the right spots for them to be successful. And he does that, and he builds this cultural narrative the right way. We'll be in contention to win 6. As I said before, it's not going to guarantee us to win 6. But we damn sure ain't going to win it at all if we don't have them. I want to say salute, man. Like and comment and subscribe. Please share this information. I'm going to get off of here right now. When I get off here, I'm going to share this to Twitter. If y'all got a social media platform you need to share it with, please share it with a comment of saying how you feel about this conversation. I got one problem. I can't find out. I just don't know how I can name the videos because it says that generic name when it goes out. It's on the platform, so I don't know if I can. It's another way I can name it. Hopefully, it'll get out into the algorithms so you can share this with Dallas Cowboy fans. Hopefully, we can get this somewhere down the line. We can get this to the coaching staff. We can get this to some players because this is not no nonsense talk. This is a Coach Mob talking real talk. This is not about talking about all kind of crazy stuff, fantasy stuff like that. Yes, keep those narratives out there trying to get as much talent that we need to get in this team. I have no problem with that. If it's a talented player, let's bring him. But remember this, fans. It's built off of these cultures, this culture here. And whoever we bring in, they can't be the person bringing the culture. We have to have the culture set and for them to fit in. Thank you for your time. I want to say salute. And y'all have a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful time. Please support our other content creators. Let them know that Coach Marv is shouting them all out, and hopefully y'all come over and look at it and learn something. Until next time, let's go Cowboys. Salute.